I heard Filipinas claiming recently that foreigners are just an option now, or maybe just not the only option any longer. And I found that very interesting, and I thought I'm going to talk about this today because I think it's worth pondering. Because I believe there is something to it, and I want to go a little bit to the bottom of this today with this video. For those of you, of course, who have been traveling to the Philippines for many decades now, would agree with this statement. Something is different, but what is different and why is it different? Yeah, I came to the Philippines in 2006, and so almost 20 years ago. And I also will confirm that things have changed dramatically, either to the good or to the worse. We will discuss in this video. But even before that, we can agree that back then, yeah, the Filipinas in general were, let's say, more desperate to hunt for a foreigner, or to meet a foreigner, to date a foreigner, or even to get married to a Western foreigner. The Western, during these times, 20, 30, 40 years ago, the Western guy for sure was seen as the trophy husband, the Filipina who could get married to a Western foreigner was winning the lottery, basically. It was hitting the jackpot. Yeah, this is definitely the case. I will agree with this. Yeah, it was easier to date Filipinas during these times because there were also less expats in the Philippines. There was no social media. One important aspect I will also discuss in this video. There were only internet cafes, basically. Because I remember the times when I started to date Filipinas almost 20 years ago. There was not even Facebook, no YouTube, nothing. Only the internet cafe and some dating sites at the time. By the way, if you want to meet great Filipinas, then a very good way is to check out Christian Filipina, which is a dating service in the Philippines, award-winning, in place already since 2009. I find them very friendly, conservative and trustworthy. Why? Because they also do background checks on the girl. If you meet a girl online, let's say on Christian Filipina, and you have some doubts, the team of Christian Filipina will background check these girls. And this is a crucial difference to other so-called dating sites, okay? Also, if you're interested in faith-based relationships, then Christian Filipina is the place to go. In my opinion, it's a good place to safely get to know other Filipinas. And the link is in the description if you want to check it out. So, why do these Filipinas claim, some of them, that you as a foreigner, as a Westerner, are just an option now and not the option? I mentioned this already. 100% the social media plays one of the biggest roles today. One big factor, and probably also a problem, is the so-called virtual validation these women receive. Yeah, just talking about Filipinas. Of course, also guys receive virtual validation. We all receive virtual validation. If you like my videos, if you subscribe to my channel, you also validate me, basically, you know. And I cannot deny the fact that if you give me a thumbs up, I like it, right? Because I also like validation. But also Filipinas like validation, obviously, because this is a basic human need, okay? But the virtual validation creates problems these days. And it is an ego booster, yeah? These girls, they get a lot of attention, but also a lot of choice overload at the same time. And this is a crucial difference to, let's say, 20 years ago, okay? And these girls also then tend to overvalue themselves because of this constant virtual validation. Yeah. And if you, let's say, are immature and underdeveloped, if your personality, if your character is immature and underdeveloped, then this, because of that, you are craving attention, validation and approval, then it can get tricky at best. Because through these social media dynamics, especially also these Filipinas, they get a distorted self-image. Yeah? And this can be even toxic, And then the second thing is the lifestyle propaganda, as I call it, which is also communicated through social media. For example, let's say Instagram or TikTok, It also, in my estimation, corrupts and even poisons the personalities of these Filipinas. I'm not saying German women are not corrupted and poisoned. Of course they are also, but this video is about Filipinas. And I want to find out what has been happening over the course of the past 20 years. And because social media, of course, and the way we act on these social media, we present ourselves, creates desires and longings. And people now compare themselves to each other, posing and boasting their new clothes and food and what kind of fancy restaurants they had dinner the other day with their maybe trophy boyfriend from California. Places they travel to, look here, my nice beach resort here, posting these pictures on social media. Food, travel, gadgets, jewelry. This, of course, creates envy in other people, a lot of dissatisfaction and even frustration. Because when you watch these videos, these TikTok videos or these YouTube shorts, or watch these, or look at these Instagram pics, which are basically only created for this sole purpose to impress and give off a fake image, But anyway, even people somehow know that this must be fake, Oh, here, look, this guy or this girl with this private jet in the background. Still, it has an effect on your psyche, yeah, because it communicates to the viewer, to the watcher. Oh, this girl, she enjoys such a nice life. Her life is much more fun. So it's the better life illusion, right? And then also her circle of friends play a big role. Yeah, if all her, let's say, the majority of her girlfriends have Western boyfriends, and these guys take these girls to places because these stupid guys think they need to impress their Filipina or to bribe her, yeah, to get anything, then yeah, but it still affects these girls also, So expectations are being set, completely unrealistic expectations, but these girls see what's possible, right? Look here, my best girlfriend, she is going there in these places. So they get more ambitious also and more materialistic, yeah? So she then wants to find also a guy who can provide her with this kind of lifestyle. As a little side note here, I read a book I finished reading a book a few weeks ago. I forgot the title. I posted in the description. And this book covers talks about or writes about the emergence of the consumer culture in America, in the United States, how it all started. This book is really fascinating because you learn a lot. You should actually only read this book because then you understand at all what the consumer culture is about. But I was not aware of how early it started already. So basically the culture we have now, this consumer culture, is not only a phenomena from the 70s or 60s. No, it goes back like 150 years ago already. And in this book there is the story of this department store Macy's, and I'm convinced this department store still exists today in New York, right? And at the time during the 1910s, right before World War I or something like that, Macy's was a Jewish department store, Jewish owner, and obviously they also had a lot of Jewish staff, employees in their big department store, very, very expensive department store. And somehow at one point the management figured out that many of these sales girls working in this department store actually became prostitutes, you know, and they couldn't fathom and couldn't figure out why that is. Later they found out, and it's obvious actually, when you understand, when these poor little sales girls, young women like today in the Philippines also, SM Mall, you know, you go inside, you see a lot of these young women working there for some very basic salary and money. That was the same already in the United States in 1910, Macy's, okay? And many of these sales girls became prostitutes, yeah, because if you are surrounded the entire day by these shiny things, these gadgets and luxury and good smelling items and luxury items and clothes and whatnot, it creates longing, desire. You crave these things and you just only think, how can I afford it? So many of these girls turned into prostitution. And this is one phenomena. When I read this story, it's a big phenomena today also, you know, but just a side note here. I don't want to talk about prostitution. But it's interesting, there is a connection, you know, because also many Filipinas today, or many more Filipinas today, engage with you seemingly only because of materialistic things. And the relationship seems to be very transactional. Why is that? There's one reason here. Yeah? I just explained it to you. So back then, if a Filipina wanted a better life, so to speak, she needed a foreigner. So just to put it in general terms and to simplify it a little bit here, okay? 20 years ago, 30 years ago. But now, how it is today in 2025, now I think Filipinas also can create more options for themselves, business-wise, maybe job-wise. Filipinas can correct me if I'm wrong, but bottom line, I mean, there are millions of overseas Filipino workers who are earning cash outside of the Philippines. If there would be enough jobs in the Philippines, they would not go abroad. I agree. So I think the job situation in the Philippines is still a mess somehow, and the salaries are low. I agree. But in general, bottom line, and looking at the differences between 20 years ago and now, is there are, I believe, more opportunities for Filipinas now to secure an income for themselves. Yeah, starting their own business, maybe online, becoming a digital nomad. I don't know. There are more options today. Nobody can deny that. So this is true, in my opinion. So it makes sense when some Filipinas, when they can support themselves, no need to look for a foreigner. Yeah? And with this comes also more income. I don't know how it is with the middle class in the Philippines. Is there a middle class? I believe so, but a very tiny middle class, right? Is it growing? Is it declining? I have no idea. But the economic factor plays a big role. And so more economically, if a Filipina is economically better off, of course, you know, she might stick with the Filipino, yeah? And we don't need to talk about these really wealthy Filipinas. None of them marries a Western foreigner. Why is that? Interesting, huh? But, yeah, in my opinion, there are more options for Filipinas now. So don't make the mistake just to think, I'm going to the Philippines and I'm going to be the prize and I'm going to be the only options for Filipinas. No. many things have changed. Also, the thing is, like, sometimes I watch these videos, of these vloggers vlogging about the Philippines. Yeah, when you live in Cebu today or in other cities which are over flooded with Western foreigners, you know the saying or the statement, scarcity creates value, right? 20, 30 years ago, even 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Foreigners, Westerners were very scarce in the Philippines. Scarcity created value. Nowadays, every second dude is a white guy in the Philippines in certain areas. You're nothing special anymore. Don't expect these Filipinas jumping on your lap, proposing to you or telling you how handsome you are or whatnot. They don't even look at you because your face is just so common and boring. There's no novelty to it, You should travel to the faraway province. This should be common sense. Go to Mindanao. This is my secret tip here I'm giving you. Yeah? Go to Mindanao, not to these very southern places like Zamboanga, for example. But there are places in Mindanao, trust me, you can have these experiences I had 20 years ago or other guys 30 and 40 years ago, where you are the hot commodity. And in these places you can also find these old style, let's call them old style Filipinas, not corrupted so much by social media. Although I bet every Filipina these days, even in the deepest province, has a smartphone. So there is no way around this. But still, there are nuances to Filipinas today. And a Filipina in Manila or Cebu, for example, these Filipinas are so used to see foreigners, maybe to date foreigners, and maybe they dated a bunch of crooks or idiots also, So they know what's all about with these foreigners, because some foreigners are not really smart also, So these Filipinas are just used to these foreigners, nothing special to them. And then also maybe these Filipinas in these bigger cities, in these larger cities, are economically better off, So there is no need for them to hook up with foreigners. This is just what I assume, how I estimate it, okay? And at the end of the day, if you don't want to be treated just as an ATM machine, because this is also the risk today, because Filipinas through social media also, of course, they are smart ladies anyway, but they learn how to play, they learn how to use their attraction for their own favor, for their own benefit, Why not? Why shouldn't they do this? Western women do the same thing, yeah? Or Japanese women, or Korean women, or South African women. Women are women, basically, at the end of the day. And some women play the game, and some other women, they don't play this game. But there are maybe proportionally more Filipinas in the Philippines who play that, I don't know, who play the money game. And now even worse. Why? Because I just laid it all out for you. Social media. That doesn't mean the girls are bad. It is just the effect of social media. It's psychology, This is how we are wired. This is how we tick. And so, but certain personalities are being really corrupted. Egos getting boosted. Girls even get stuck up and think they are something better. Oh, who are you? You poor white guy? I'm a Filipina, don't talk to me. Yeah, maybe. So at the end of the day, these are the dynamics. Things have changed. Yes, I agree. You are not the only option anymore, because Filipinas more and more can create their own options. And I also hope they can create their own options. It's a good thing, And why not? I'm not saying you cannot go to the Philippines anymore. No. There's plenty of women, good women available still, You just need to weed them out more than 20 years ago, for sure. That's the thing, that's on you, that's your job. You need to sift through these women more than 20 years ago, 30 years ago, because one thing is for sure, also in the Philippines, the westernization marches brutally on. There is no way around this so-called westernization, with all its bad influences and stuff, will also not spare the Philippines. And the effects we can already now see and feel and observe anywhere, not only in the Philippines, but also in other countries in Southeast Asia. Yeah? So nothing to cry about, plenty of options still there, plenty of women who still prefer a Western man for different reasons. You just have to know where to look for these women. And then just important on your part is that you be super selective, be super selective these days, and have your standards. You need to have certain standards, and then also a proper judgment is absolutely necessary, not only in the Philippines, because of these bad social media influences also, partly due to them, to these influences. This is just what happens with the human psyche, when you spend too much time on social media. Corrupts the personality and character, and then you have to deal with these kind of people, Or maybe you say, no, I don't deal at all with this trash. Yeah, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. Be selective. Have your standards, and then apply a proper discernment and judgment. And then, if you need assistance in finding a great Filipina, then please check out the link in the description. Christian Filipina helps you with your mission. And with that being said, I'm checking out for today. Thanks for watching. Looking forward to your comments as usually. And I'm gonna see you in one of my next videos. Take care. Bye bye.